We are about to rapid fire through a new episode of Rejected Media because over the years I've talked about how much I love the DCAU. That is the old DC animated universe. Every time I bring it up, there's someone who's like, it's time has passed, it's time to let it go, to which I always say I find that stupid because there's a lot of different characters and ideas in this universe, not even just Batman, that could have been revisited, could have been expanded on, could have gotten their own series like Wonder Woman, The Flash, even a show following Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, falling back in love, post JLU, any of this kind of stuff, Batman Beyond. There was a lot that could have been done in the DCAU, and they didn't do it, with the excuse at the time for moving away from it, moving to the DC animated movie universe, being, well, we ran out of ideas for the DCAU, but then they proceeded to do the DCAMU, and of course as well the Tomorrowverse, both of which used almost no ideas they did in the DCAU. So it's like, you didn't run out of ideas, you just didn't want to do it. Now that said, the other day, because of the rising popularity and the release of Batman the Caped Crusader, it actually came out that Bruce Timm, one of the creative heads behind the DCAU and behind actually Batman the Animated Series, who I want to stress without Paul Dini, I think this would not have worked anyway, was actually approached by Warner. He was actually approached by them, and they asked him if he would bring back Batman the Animated Series and make new episodes. Now this kind of comes off the back of some other pieces of news that I want to cover very briefly about the DCAU, so if you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe for more content. Rejected Media is a series I do as it comes up, as either news comes up or as I'm able to reach out to people. Hey, if you have a better way you think I should reach out to people, I'd love that too, because every time I reach out to creators to actually talk to them about behind the scenes stuff, I never hear back. So a lot of times we unfortunately have to go based off of big outlet interviews, behind the scenes, Blu-ray, DVD, etc., all these things over the years. But I do have a question of the day for you, which is, what is your favorite DCAU project? That can be a movie like Mask of the Phantasm, it could be a show like Justice League Unlimited or Static Shock, whatever. I just kind of want to know what it is and why you love it. I also do want to say that I'm going to show some small clips and pictures of the DCAU. I want this video to be shorter than normal, and it's really hard to actually edit these clips together and not get flagged with copyright, even though they're transformative when I'm uploading these things on YouTube. So I'm also going to mix it with gameplay and other stuff as well. The first piece of news for the rejection of the DC animated universe coming back is essentially the newest piece, which was from Bruce Timm. Now, this was actually during an interview he did recently where he straight up said, in terms of HBO Max and Max executives talking to him about revisiting different classic properties in order to get new subscribers, in order to get people to join these streaming services, he said that they had approached him and said, hey, how would you feel about going back and making some more Batman the Animated Series episodes? And I'm like, nah, we'd been there, we'd done that. I wasn't interested in just revisiting that world. This is something I find interesting about Timm over the years, is it seems like the best work he was ever related to, for some reason, he doesn't want to do anything with, except for, I guess I would say, Batman and Harley Quinn, which was kind of a disaster, and then Justice League The Fatal Five, which I thought was really good, and people didn't really give the time of day to. Unfortunately, it seems like he doesn't ever really want to revisit this. What's weird to me though is Paul Dini seems more open to it, as he's actually been involved in some of the comic book revivals of this universe, over the years here, and those did go over fairly well. Now I know to a lot of people they didn't reach the heights of Batman the Animated Series or Justice League, but to be fair, they were comic books that did not have the moving animation, they did not have the background soundtrack. That's not to say comics are worse, it's just a different type of media. So it's odd to me that Paul Dini, who I would argue was behind a lot of the good writing of this series, was willing to go back to a lot of these different, things in the universe, but Bruce Timm, who was behind a lot of the artistic flair of it, wasn't. I'm not really sure why that is, if it's just that he's gotten a lot of crap over the years for being a horn dog who, likes Batgirl and likes Batman and Batgirl together and stuff. I don't know if he has some kind of hard feelings on it, but he's not alone in kind of neglecting the DCAU. What bums me out about this is that it does, like I said, come off the back of other news, which is that Tim Daly had actually expressed interest in returning to play Superman again. He had said that he wanted another crack at the character and that it would be, essentially fun to do. He said, "The only thing I'm sad about is that I'd like to have another crack at it. I really would like to do Superman again. I just have to be in the right place at the right time, and hopefully whoever the fans are who read your article will put some pressure on Warner Bros," I love this guy, "and say, hey, we want Tim Daly back to do some of this stuff. I'll come back in a heartbeat." Which I want to mention right here, you know what one of the easiest things to do to bring back the DCAU would be, despite the fact that WB neglected it and now Kevin Conroy has sadly passed away, which I want to mention here real quick. That's not a light thing that I say. They really did waste the talents of Kevin Conroy on a lot of projects that he himself elevated, but were not up to snuff of, the old work that they had written for him to do. It's unfortunate because a lot of performances that he was involved in later years, he had nothing to do with this quality, but they weren't reaching the heights of the Arkham universe or the old DCAU. So I truly believe that Warner Bros. Wasted their opportunity to bring back that Batman. I truly 100% believe that. That has nothing to do with Kevin. He was a joy. He adored the fans. He did amazing work. And he deserves every iota of credit for that. But WB themselves wasted the opportunities to revisit this universe to the point where their shining star of it passed away. They blew it in that way. That said, I do think that there are a lot of avenues you could go to bring this universe back, despite the fact that Bruce Timm for some reason doesn't want to. One of them being Justice League Beyond. One of them being doing something, even if you wanted to do Superman Beyond with Tim Daly and bringing him back. But I think that kind of thing would be really cool. And Will Friedle has actually, expressed a willingness to return to this role as well, recently returning as a version of Batman Beyond. I believe the DCAU version, but I guess it's a little bit up to debate, in, of course, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was iffy in terms of quality. Now, what frustrates me about this, though, is, like I said, I feel like they blew it. If they were going to bring back Batman the Animated Series, I do think there were things you could have done. You could have adapted the comic books that were written with Dini's help into actual animation, and that's something that I would have been in full support of. You could have also done something like a Batman Beyond prelude, maybe where we see the relationships of Bruce Wayne fall apart. We see him become more distant after what happened to Tim Drake. We see him don that Beyond suit and start to kind of push towards where he has his heart problems and has to give up being Batman. That's the kind of revival I would want to see. I guess I just wouldn't call that revival Batman the Animated Series. I feel like it would be something else entirely. But I don't really know if you can do that without Kevin Conroy. Now, I know Kevin was a gracious man who wanted the best for these characters, and he expressed ownership over the character in the sense of loving him, but not in the sense of ever being greedy with the role or not wanting anyone else to play him. It's just that I feel like if you were going to do that, you're now going to face a lot of harsh criticism, backlash, and frustration from fans because you should have done it when he was alive. You should have done it when he was around and more than willing to voice the character. And I put that 100% on WB. I'm not putting the death of, Kevin Conroy on anyone. I'm just saying that the wasted opportunities of reviving the DCAU with that character are on attitudes like the one that Bruce Timm has expressed here. Well, we've been there, we've done that. I don't think that you would want to bring back BTAS the exact way it was, and maybe that's what he's saying, but it's unfortunate to me to see that there's such a resistance with WB at bringing back what was honestly their best animated universe. It even goes as far back as well as a little while ago when James Gunn was, kind of coming in as the lead of the new DC universe, and someone had actually asked, because X-Men 97 was so popular, how about giving us Justice League Unlimited 07? Basically bringing back Justice League Unlimited. And James Gunn had a very puzzling reply for me, which was, X-Men 97 is fun because it's unique and not desperately trying to follow the trends of everything around it, so I'd rather just keep doing that. Which I understand what he's saying, but I also don't really understand what he's saying, because X-Men 97 was following the trend of reviving an old show and doing a new spin on it, it was not the first to do it. Off the top of my head, you know, you had Roseanne Barr's show, I believe, came back for a little bit. You had Frasier, which I don't know if that revival came out yet or not. I honestly don't know, but I want to watch it. I love Frasier. You know, you obviously had things like Fuller House. I mean, there was iCarly. This certainly was not trend setting. Like, this was not like a new thing to revive an old show. They didn't do it for the first time with X-Men 97. So I don't really understand that point. I do get the point from Gunn that if you're bringing it back just to bring it back, that would be stupid. But with all of these ideas on the table that seem to be rejected constantly, things like, you know, following these Justice League characters who never got their own stories, things like maybe even a crime noir drama following The Question and Huntress together, one of my favorite pairings in the DCAU. Even things like following some of the lost years we never got to see between Justice League Unlimited, you know, Return of the Joker as well, and then obviously Batman Beyond. We don't get to see a lot of these things. Even Static Shock. You know, Static Shock, the show, was constantly kind of building towards an older Virgil. It was always building towards the idea that he was going to be this great hero in the future, and we got to see glimpses of that. Not that he wasn't a great hero in the past, but we got to see glimpses of him as an older hero as well in things like Beyond tie-ins, Justice League Unlimited, etc. But we never actually got to see stories of him centered on him as an older hero. And because of all of this, I feel like there's a lot of different opportunities you could have to bring back the DCAU, but for some reason at every level of management with WB, they're just resistant to it. Now, at the end of the day, and I'll throw this here at the end of my video because people who actually watch my videos to this point will understand what I'm saying, even if they disagree. Part of the reason this bums me out so bad is because I do believe this was their strongest universe on a screen that they ever did, in terms of consistently good storytelling 95% of the time, in terms of beautiful animation and style, in terms of excellent voice work and acting. All of these things kind of came together to make a very wonderful universe that stands the test of time to this day. And it's frustrating to see how quickly they moved away from it and then never really came back except for one project that was bad and one project that was pretty good but no one cared about. I genuinely think that's the management at WB at pretty much every level being resistant to that stuff and waiting until the last possible moment in order to approach, you know, in order to basically approach Bruce Timm, because this was about 4 or 5 years ago. You have to think Kevin Conroy at that point sadly only had 4 or 5 years left of his life. Not that they could have known that, but I'm saying they sat on that version of the character so long. Then they went back to him and they were like, hey, Bruce, do you maybe want to bring back your big money maker, please? We want a big surefire hit for our streaming service. It's like the most greedy WB thing ever to do. And it's so sad to me because this is the universe I grew up with. And as I've gotten older, every time they reboot, every time they do a new thing, I just care less. Because it's like, there's no stakes to it. I just know you'll leave it in the past again, just like you did before. And to be honest, that's kind of how I feel about Caped Crusader. As much as I know people enjoy it, I've just had a hard time caring enough to get into it because I know that they'll just leave it behind in the future as just another, you know, footnote in DC animation history. That's what they did to the DCAU, that's what they did to the AMU, that's now what they're doing to the Tomorrowverse, and who knows what they'll do next and get rid of next. I just don't have faith in them to not dump and abandon their projects, and that's sad. You want to let me know what you think? I appreciate that very much. If you want to support our channel, you can use our Fortnite code DJAY123. You can subscribe for more content, leave a like. You can also, of course, use our code DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase on our store, CosmoBunny.shop. Now, lately I've seen some confusion around this shop with what we do. Maybe I just did a poor job of explaining it in the past. Very possible. What we do with this is we get comic books, manga, magazines, things that are going into landfills. These are not able to be sold. They're often not being recycled. They are just being thrown out by stores in Minnesota where we live. What we do is we take some of the paper from these things, we do repurpose it, use some of it in resin, use creative transformation to make new art pieces for your home, including coasters, keychains, trays, and more. I've seen some confusion with people thinking like we print out pictures of these characters and infringe on IP or something. We don't. We have never printed a single picture of a character and used it in our art, ever. What we do is we use things from action figure boxes, I'm being serious, that are going in landfills. We use things from magazines. We use things from comics, manga, advertisements. And instead of just tossing that out or burning it and sending it into the atmosphere back to God and then destroying the ozone layer, we make it into something for your home that can last you for quite a while. You can enjoy it, you can have fun with it, and then it's, kind of the circle of life of these different things. The same way as if you got, given or bought a comic book from a store and then you went to a secondhand store and resold it, that's what we're doing, except we're actually transforming these art pieces. So I want to make that clear because it seems like some people haven't been understanding it, and I will take responsibility for that because maybe I'm just not great at explaining my points. But I do really appreciate when you guys support these things. It means a lot to us. Hope you have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.